California needs to be saved. It needs to be saved right now because the lunatics are now coming for the children and their parents. They're coming for you. Hi and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of TFI Media Group. I'm your host Tejasvi Malhotra. Let's begin. We are all familiar with the term re-education, are we not? It's what the Nazis did. It's what China is doing. Basically, it is what authoritarian regimes do to quell dissent and opposition. They change the very mindset of their people. That's what is happening in California. That's right, Chinese-styled re-education programs are now being held in the democratic-ruled state of California. Why so, you might ask? Well, Democrats now believe that they must destroy California's healthcare sector by infusing it with toxic woke agenda. California stands at the cusp of a big and devastating change. You see, State Senator Scott Wiener has just introduced Senate Bill 923 or the Transgender Inclusive Care Act in the state legislature. According to the proposed legislation, healthcare providers and their employees will be required to complete evidence-based cultural competency training for the purpose of providing trans-inclusive healthcare to patients who identify as transgender, gender-conforming, and intersex. Basically, all doctors, nurses, and other health professionals that come in contact with patients will now be re-educated with the toxic woke ideology that sees gender as a mere social construct rather than a function of the biological realities of nature. So any patient, including minors claiming to be not boys and girls, will be treated as individuals who identify as transgender, gender-conforming, and intersex. According to the Epoch Times, all healthcare staff found not to be providing trans-inclusive care would be required to complete refresher courses on a more frequent basis if deemed necessary. Participants would be trained to use DGI inclusive terminology, using people's correct names and pronounces, even when they are not reflected in records or legal documents. The training, according to the bill, would also promote avoiding language, whether verbal or non-verbal, that demeans, ridicules, and condemns DGI individuals, and avoiding making assumptions about gender identity by using gender-neutral language, and avoiding language that presumes all individuals are heterosexual, cisgender, or gender-conforming or non-intersex. The proposed legislation would make life miserable for healthcare staff in California. What the legislation does not take into account is the fact that many doctors and nurses do not conform to the woke gender agenda. They do not believe that there can be as many genders among humans as there are stars in the sky. Furthermore, it is impossible to conduct treatment, especially in exigent times. While conforming to gender-neutral lingo, respecting sentiments is not really the top priority of any medical professional when the patient's life itself is in danger. Yet, that's what the proposed bill dictates medical staff to do. They must fall in line with the gender agenda of far-left lunatics and get punished with repetitive re-education classes that aim at turning them into brain-dead liberals. To top it all, the legislation proposes to bypass and ignore the decisions of parents. So kids will now choose their genders, will be given hormones of the other sex, and will also be surgically transformed into a gender of their choice, all while the parents watch helplessly and are snubbed for being conservatives or radical Republicans. Parents are now coming together with Republicans and medical groups in California to demand that their children be left alone. Not just that, the legislation would mean spending tens of millions of tax dollars to pay transgender activists to train the medical community. Is that viable? Absolutely not. But then when have Democrats and their left-leaning masters ever shown fiscal prudence? California is going to the dogs. Only ordinary people can save it now. Perhaps it is for this reason that recent polls show Democrats' likability dipping in the state in what is the only silver lining anywhere near the horizon right now.